If you're just getting started with PDF patterns, then the most important thing you'll need to learn is how to print them accurately so that the size of your project is correct. In this video, I'm going to go over the key software and settings that you'll need in order to ensure that it prints at the correct scale and without errors. And the good news is, once you've got these settings in place, you'll be able to print as many patterns as you want without issues. Hi, I'm Adrienne from Sew PDF, which is a marketplace and community for sewing PDF patterns. First, we need to ask, how will you know if your pattern has printed correctly? All PDF sewing patterns will have a square or rectangle that you'll need to measure in order to ensure that it printed correctly. The scale square is usually on the first page of the pattern, but check your tutorial just in case it may tell you a specific page number to print. Make sure you only print that page first because you don't want to waste paper while you're sorting out your printer settings. One thing to note here, I often see questions in our community about whether or not is it okay to use a pattern that has already printed where the square measures just a little bit smaller than it should. And the answer to that is generally no. You should not use that pattern because that small amount difference is over just 1 inch or 5 centimeters or however much it is. But when you add that up across the width of a bodice or a skirt, it actually adds up to be quite a lot because it's off by that amount per every inch or measurement of the pattern. Okay, so the first step to printing a pattern accurately is to open it in Adobe Reader. This is free software that comes standard on most computers, but if you don't have it, here's how to get it.
So to get Adobe Reader, you can go to get.adobe.com/reader. And this page should detect your system requirements. You can see here it's detected that I'm using Windows 10 or 11, but it's possible that depending on your computer or your browser that you may need to select this somewhere. Any which way, before downloading, please make sure that it has detected your correct system.
You may be asking, why is it important to use Adobe Reader to print PDF sewing patterns? And the answer to that would be because it is the most consistently correct software for PDF pattern. There are some other PDF readers and software that might be able to use to print patterns correctly, but the easiest one to troubleshoot because it is used so consistently is Adobe Reader. One note about the mobile version of Adobe Reader, so this would be used on mobile devices, tablets, and Chromebooks, which technically use the mobile app version of Adobe Reader. With this version, you will not be able to print layers, which is how you are able to print just the size that you need instead of all of the sizes. And I'll be showing you how to use the layers feature shortly. So let's take a look at the file that you'll need to open in Adobe Reader.
So as you can see, there are a number of different file types here for this pattern. And when you are printing from home, you are looking for the letter or A4 file. If you don't see one, then often it is combined with the tutorial. So the home printing pages will be at the end of the tutorial. I'm just going to quickly go over what the other file types are, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to be focusing on home printing. I'll leave some links down in the description of this video for copy shop printing and for using projectors with sewing. But really quickly, so the A0 or copy shop file, sometimes also called large format file, this is for printing on blueprint size paper from a copy shop on a large format printer. The projector file is made for using a projector to project the pattern pieces right on to your fabric. And these files have a number of unique features that are not intended for printing. Sometimes the letter and A4 files will be separate. There'll be one for letter size paper and one for A4 size paper. A4 size paper is used in pretty much everywhere except for North America. North America uses letter size paper. They are slightly different sizes, but a lot of designers can make files that print well on each size of paper. Designers who print files that are just for letter or just for A4 are able to decrease the overlap a little bit, and this results in having to use slightly less paper. So you can see now that I've got a pattern open in Adobe Reader. My Adobe Reader may look a little different than yours because I do have the Pro version, but it should just have extra tools over here. Sometimes those tools are open when you open Adobe Reader, sometimes they are not. I'm just going to close them out here. Okay, so this should be the most recent version of Adobe Reader. If you're using an older version that hasn't been updated, then your layers, which is this little symbol right here, it looks like two pieces of paper stacked together, may be on the left side because it was on the left side for a long time. But in the more recent updates, it is on the right side in this little bar right here. So this is how you select which size you want to print. So I'm going to turn off all the sizes that I don't need. Okay, I usually do a combination of 8 and 10. And you'll note here that there is a pattern info layer that says do not delete and trim guidelines do not delete. So these are important things not to delete. Most patterns will have a layer like this, and that layer is all of the guidelines of how you assemble the pattern and things like your measurement square and the page numbers and that sort of thing. So you don't want those to disappear. So I'm going to close the layers, and now this is ready to print. So I'm going to hit the print button. So here are the print settings, and the most important setting is the sizing here. You do not want it to be on fit, shrink oversized pages. Neither of those will get the right sizing. Actual size or custom scale 100% should both equally print at the right size. Another setting that is important is the choose paper source by PDF page size. For a lot of patterns, this doesn't matter whether it's checked or unchecked, but for a specific type of pattern, if it is checked, it will cause a problem. And I'll show you what that error looks like later. Now, when it comes to orientation, you want it to be on auto unless your pattern specifies otherwise. So auto means that it will detect whether your pattern is a portrait or a landscape page. And what it does is it will center the image that it is printing on the page. So if the image is 8.5 by 11 inches and it's being printed on letter size paper, then it doesn't really matter whether it's centered or not, it will print the same regardless. But for a pattern like this that is intended to be able to be printed on either letter or A4 size paper, they're generally designed for it to be printed when it is centered. And if you were to click portrait, then it would, on the A4 paper, it would move it up into the upper left-hand corner of the page instead of centering it, which is going to throw things off if it is not intended to be printed that way.
To recap, the 3 important settings that you'll need in Adobe Reader to ensure you're printing correctly are actual size or custom size 100%, auto portrait or landscape unless your pattern dictates otherwise, and make sure to uncheck choose paper source by PDF size. And you can get this easy reminder graphic from the blog post in the description of this video. In most cases, these settings will be the only ones that you'll need in order to print accurately, but always make sure to measure your square just in case. I also want to show you a few printer errors that won't necessarily affect the scale of the pattern, but will affect the accuracy of the lines on the pattern or impact your ability to assemble those pages together accurately. The most common of these is the HP printer communication error. This is really common with HP printers. I have seen it with other printers once or twice, but the vast majority of the time it's an HP printer. Essentially, this is a communication error between the file and your printer. The telltale sign of this error is that the printed pages will not match what shows on your screen. Some of the lines will come out looking differently than they did on your screen, such as curved lines turning into straight angled lines, or you may have additional lines like in this example. Sometimes those angled lines may end up being filled in shapes like in this example here. These errors are very easily fixed by selecting Print as Image.
In order to access the Print as Image setting, you'll need to go into the Advanced tab right here. And when you click in there, you will be able to find the Print as Image button and check there. Now, one thing to note, if you're using the Adobe Print in Grayscale selection here, then the Print as Image button won't be accessible. So in order to do this, you'll need to go into your printer properties, hitting the Properties button, and find your Print in Grayscale or Print in Black and White option in your printer settings and use that, and then uncheck Print in Grayscale on Adobe Reader, which isn't needed if you've selected that from your printer settings. Then you'll be able to go into Advanced and select Print as Image.
Another error that I've seen come up a lot is when people are trying to print their pattern in black and white and the lines just aren't showing up at all. Every time I've seen this come up, it's been because the person only had black and white ink in their printer and they were using the grayscale setting in Adobe Reader to print it in black and white. So the grayscale setting in Adobe Reader actually uses color ink to make the gray line. So if you're out of color ink, then those gray shades will just not come out at all. It will only print the black lines. The way to get around this is to uncheck the grayscale setting in Adobe Reader, click on Properties, and go into your actual printer settings to choose your black and white or grayscale option. Another error that I've seen quite a few times is a corrupted file. So a corrupted file generally happens when there is a glitch in the internet while you are downloading, and it just screws something up in the file. It might revert to an older version or just mess things up in general. I have seen some very strange errors, and these are always fixed by re-downloading the file. With a corrupted file, the error will show on the screen and not just on printout. There are a couple of other common printing questions that come from printing the wrong file. Sometimes people will accidentally print the A0 large format copy shop file from a home printer. And when this happens, one of two things will happen. Either it will scale it down, so the pieces will all be super tiny because a large page has been printed on a small page. Or if it doesn't scale it down, then it might print it on a series of pages, but it won't have any assembly guidelines because this file was not intended for home printing use. And as I mentioned earlier, another reason that your assembly guidelines may not show up would be if you have accidentally unchecked the layer that has those assembly guidelines on them when you are selecting your size. I also just want to quickly show you what the error looks like when you have the Choose Paper Source by PDF Size button checked. If the pattern file does not have the white edges around the file, then it will end up printing like this page on the left. Whereas if you uncheck that setting, then it will print perfectly like the page on the right, as long as you have all of the other settings correct. If you try printing your pattern and you come across an error that isn't mentioned in this video, and you're using Adobe Reader, drop me a message in the comment. I have helped a lot of people sort out their printing errors over the years, and there's only been once or twice that I wasn't able to help them figure it out. In those cases, it may have been an issue with the specific printer, I'm not sure, but I'm literally talking like 99.9% of the time, these settings will work. And if you do end up with a printer that for some reason just doesn't want to print at the right scale, there is another method that you can try. You can take the custom scale 100% and then just start adjusting the number 101%, 102%, and keep trying until you get that square to print at the right size. But as I said, that would be extremely rare that this would be necessary. And I generally don't recommend it unless all of the other options are exhausted. Now, if you need a little help assembling your pattern, my next video is going to be about how to assemble the pattern and tape all the pages together correctly. And I'll link that video right here as soon as it's ready. Make sure to check out the list of free patterns that is down in the description of this video, as that is a great place to start if you're new to PDF patterns. It's a great way to try a bunch of different designers and figure out which ones you like best. Happy sewing!